My name is Charles Babinski. Yeah, sorry, that photo is not photoshopped, by the way. If anybody's wondering, that's what I look like every day. So, I'm Charles Babinski. I'm the co-founder, like Todd said, of two shops here in LA, G&B and Go Get 'em Tiger. I'm also the reigning US Barista Championship, and pretty soon in April, my tenure will be up. And I would be remiss if I didn't use this sort of last waning opportunity to use that vested authority as a champion to say a few things that I really care about. To start, and maybe this is the core of everything that I'm going to be saying, is a pretty simple idea. And that is that coffee shops are important. Baristas are important. The whole retail experience matters. Now, when I say that, I'm not saying that specialty coffee, what's in the cup, is important, though that's obviously true, and there's a lot of people that will attest to that. I'm talking specifically about the spaces and the people that run them. Now, this is an era when people have less and less opportunities to socialize and interact with other human beings outside of work or places with alcohol. So coffee shops are becoming these essential community spaces. And it's a time when people are taking more care about the products that they consume, what they put in their bodies. And coffee shops are becoming one of the best places for people to interact with high-quality ingredients on a daily basis. Coffee shops, they make a difference. It's modest at first, but it adds up little by little every day. And the sum of that service can have a profound effect on people. For some folks, coffee shops are essential spaces that keep them emotionally grounded and connected to the world around them. I am, in a lot of ways, one of those people. I love coffee shops. I owe them an incredible debt. Through work as a barista, I basically became a human being. I met my wife in a coffee bar. A lot of my closest friends are coworkers or ex-coworkers or customers. At this point, I've essentially committed my life to retail coffee. And as somebody who has this strong investment in coffee shops and what it means to be a part of it, before I get into the systems that run a coffee shop and all of that, there's one big issue that I just want to mention, which is that coffee shops don't get any love. Baristas don't get a whole lot of love. I mean, we talk about it, and there's a lot of talk about elevating the barista craft, but the reality is that there is an incredible disconnect between the needs of retail baristas and how the rest of the industry looks at them or would like to use them. Importantly, right now, success for the professional barista is tied to how much they know about every other aspect of the chain, the farmer, the buyer, the roaster, more so than it's tied to the barista's understanding or execution of service. In this thinking, baristas are crucial because they are the last part of the chain, more so than they are masters of their own territory. And one of the starkest examples of this is Barista Competitions. At Barista Competitions, an essential part of the scoring is centered around understanding the coffee knowledge. And this is a noble concept, but in practice, more often than not, that means displaying incredibly rote coffee information. There's a reason why a lot of the baristas that get up there and talk in barista competitions are always mentioning day to night temperature variation or basic varietal concepts, even though you have a decade of serious competitors who've been saying the exact same thing. Now, I love barista competitions, and they have been incredibly formative for me, but believe me when I tell you that you would not be able to win without saying these things. And I think the most troubling fact is I don't believe that a barista could go into a competition and representing solely the skill set of a day-to-day barista with the highest level of excellence be able to win, which is a shame. Now, all of this, it's not barista or customer-centric thinking. Instead, it's a mindset that serves all the other aspects of the chain. It does an incredible job of having baristas serve as mouthpieces for farmers or roasters or representing larger coffee ideals. But in my opinion, it isn't something that properly values or celebrates the work of professional baristas or the community of coffee shops. It's the type of thinking that spurs cafe owners to invest in pour-over bars, even when it might not be the right decision for them. They might sacrifice efficiency or good labor numbers so that they can better convey the craftsmanship that goes into a fine cup of coffee. And it is no surprise that with all of the growth, or in all this growth of specialty coffee in the past 10 years, we've admittedly done an amazing job of heralding the values of specialty coffee. And we've done an equally terrible job of cultivating hospitality-oriented coffee professionals or providing them with sustainable businesses where they can flourish. In fact, I've witnessed the standard retail reward system, who gets promoted and why, working in the opposite direction, where baristas who want nothing to do with retail are promoted into better paying jobs, roasters, account reps, buyers, even trainers, while at the same time providing little support for the folks who have a real love for customer service and connecting with people. I mean, how often is the best barista in the shop the one with the least commitment to kind and speedy service? The moody one in the corner with a refractometer, or the one regaling a glassy-eyed customer about the merits of lactic acid fermentation. Now, all of this is well-meaning. And don't get me wrong, baristas are not being oppressed. And it's certainly not a zero-sum game where putting attention on the barista should take it away from the farmer. But it's important to recognize that the current mechanisms and systems that exist to champion baristas are oftentimes championing everyone but. And that's going to keep being the case until more people on the retail level prioritize and outspokenly value the things that matter to them. So, with all that out of the way, let's talk a little bit about what makes retail good, what matters at retail. Well, first, you have to not automatically do what other coffee shops are doing. Actually, it helps if you can completely free yourself of how you think coffee is supposed to be done or how the coffee shop's supposed to work, and instead focus on what helps you serve customers in the specific context of your coffee bar. The most successful coffee shops have a clear idea of the customer experience they want to share, and they develop systems that create that desired experience. Take the example of the cafe owner switching to all brew by the cup. Now, honestly, maybe this is the best way to showcase the coffee, and maybe brew by the cup is absolutely essential to the experience that the cafe owner wants to create. But if that cafe owner is prioritizing speedy service, or more realistically, economically has to prioritize speedy service, they're going to have to develop systems to handle the longer wait times and the bottlenecks that by the cup brewing creates without incurring too high of a labor cost. And that's really hard. Some shops can pull this off amazingly, but there's a reason why many of those places tend to have the owners as the primary employee or barista. Another example is one that I can talk a little bit more about specifically, is our coffee bar, which is about half a mile away here in downtown Los Angeles, G&B. Now, G&B is in Grand Central Market, which is this incredibly busy market. And when we were looking at the space and wondering what we were doing, we were inspired by, Kyle Glanville, my business partner, and I, we were inspired by this trip to Spain that we took, where we were going into all these places where it'd be a bar, and like everybody, bankers, construction workers, anyone off the street would just come in, put their elbow on the counter, and they'd get a little sandwich and a little cognac of beer, and it'd be a few euros, and the vibe is just perfect and amazing. We wanted to take that same thing and bring it to the market. So we developed this 360-degree bar where people can come up and order anywhere. And the goal is that somebody can come out of this endless sea of people, put their elbow on the bar, order a drink, and ideally, immediately or as quickly as possible, get this absolutely delicious cup of coffee. Now that is the criteria. And whatever it takes us to provide that experience is fair game. I mean, if we could develop a machine that at the push of a button extruded a delicious cappuccino in 15 seconds, right? That would be amazing. We would buy 3 or 4 of them. That doesn't exist right now, but instead we are constantly finding these other ways to efficiently and quickly make coffee. That's my daughter, by the way. Quickly make coffee. And oftentimes they run counter to both our preconceived notions of how coffee should work and the industry noise. 3 years ago, we switched from batch brewing coffees after years of holding on to pour-overs. And for us, it turned out that batch brewing was just way better suited to that style of service than a by-the-cup would be. It was faster, and it helped us make the coffee, the actual coffee that we were serving the customers, not the theoretical coffee, better. It suited that core customer experience. We started doing things like pre-grinding coffee and pre-weighing doses for espresso and using volumetric machines, so we would have the recipe completely dialed in, and it would be consistent across the whole staff. It also removed any bottleneck that we would have at the espresso station during our highest volume times. It wasn't how we thought things were going to work, but it worked. It suited that core customer experience. It made our coffee better. It made it faster. Another thing, and it's a really small one, is we recently started making chocolate milk ahead of time and putting it in an horchata machine, right? Like an horchata mixer. So that when we make hot chocolates and mochas, it's always the same recipe, right? And we can do it quicker and faster and get that drink out more. It's a small thing, but it contributes to that overall goal. It makes things more efficient, faster, more consistent, and better, and it allows us to give that customer experience. Now, when most people, many of whom are not directly invested in the retail coffee experience, see these things, they oftentimes think of them as trends, right? Like, oh, automation is the new hipness. All the cool kids are doing volumetrics, or pressure profiling is the new whatever. As a coffee professional, as a retail coffee professional, as a professional barista, these aren't trends. These are tools. They're tools that help you create that specific customer experience. And over the years, those tools can be refined. They can all be tossed out and you can get new tools, right? But the goal is always going to be the same. In a few years, I really hope that G&B Coffee is not making coffee the same way that it is right now. But I pray that we're closer along to that ideal goal of what the customer's experience should be. And we're always going to struggle. We're struggling with a lot of things right now. I mean, not just how do we make the espressos or the batch brews better, but how to handle the legitimately terrible LA City water, or how to make the espresso prep even more streamlined and minimize inconsistencies with leveling and tamping. Essentially, we always have to be getting better. And frankly, it's not going to happen if we're just following what other people are doing. All right. So the second thing that helps us make good coffee at retail, serve other things than coffee. Because why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't we serve more delicious things, things that would appeal to a broader range of people? The thing that I always think about is what happens when your best customer, the one who loves specialty coffee on the same level you do, comes in, asks a million questions about the coffee, and just adores what you do. What happens when that person comes in and they bring their family? Right? Because, this is this amazing thing that you have this person and you're so important to their life that they want to share you with the people who are important to theirs. And statistically speaking, those people do not care at all about specialty coffee. And oftentimes they don't care about coffee at all. But it would be amazing, and I think it's amazing, to be able to take that ornery great uncle or that young niece or that brother and just serve them something that's going to blow their minds. And it's really important to note, we have the blueprint for this. We can take that same thoughtful and careful approach that we put to coffee and apply it to a myriad of other products. And there's so many places that we get to look for inspiration. It's not just bartending and cocktails, but herbalism or industrial soft drinks, tea. Basically, if you expand the purview of a coffee shop to all non-alcoholic drinks, you open up a lot of exciting terrain, and people genuinely appreciate it. Everyone appreciates it. And I'm not even getting into food service, which can add a lot to the customer experience. The point is, though, coffee shops, they don't have to be temples to coffee. In fact, they are a lot more fun if they're not. So, to sum up, don't do what everyone else is doing. In fact, I would ignore 90% of what people say, the sole exception being the two people who are following me speaking up here. Focus your systems to serve your specific vision of the customer experience and serve a wide variety of products that make people happy. Now, that's a reasonable start for creating a great retail experience. And when combined with sensible business practices like keeping costs and labor in line, keeping the accounting tidy, it's a good blueprint for a sustainable business. Now, for the last thing, though, and maybe this is the most important, I'm not going to talk about how a shop is run, but instead, how we look at the people who run it. Now, if you're a dedicated barista, someone who truly loves serving people and working in a coffee shop, guess what? there aren't that many of us around. And chances are, among the most dedicated baristas, everyone's going to be doing things a little bit differently, just like every single shop's going to be doing things a little bit differently. If being a professional barista is going to mean anything more, we're going to have to grow a culture of respect and admiration. This is Nicely. Many of you know him. He is a dear friend, one of my favorite human beings on earth. He runs Manati's, which is a small coffee shop in Venice. And I think if Nicely and I were to sit down and have a conversation about coffee, we would probably agree on 25% of the things that we were talking about. We're incredibly different. I mean, on the left, that's Nicely, right? He's very aesthetic. He has a great aesthetic. On the right, that's me. I'm a little bit more utilitarian. Nicely is super intuitive. He's all about experiencing it, feeling the coffee. And I'm a bit more analytical. I love scales, things like that. But the point of the matter is that if Nicely is one of the most dedicated coffee professionals, and if he says something, I listen to him. Because even if I don't agree with him, I know his commitment to his customers, and I know his commitment to what he does. And I know that even if I think he's 100% wrong and I can be angry about it, that there's some truth and there's some wisdom there that I can learn from. All right, this is Jamie. Yeah. She's the manager of Go Get 'em Tiger. I've worked with Jamie for, I think, about 5 years now, and I feel, and I think a lot of people who know her feel, she's one of the most remarkable coffee professionals around. She is, to a great degree, responsible for Go Get 'em Tiger being the shop that it is. But there is no competition in the world for the skills that Jamie has. There is no competition for waking up every morning and treating coworkers and customers with kindness. There's nothing for those who approach the operating of a coffee bar with dedication and thoughtfulness. In short, there is no competition for the best baristas. Now, in our industry, we have a lot of strong, great voices. And most folks in coffee can tell you about Matt Perger and James Hoffman, the Peter G's and the Jeff Wattses. But among coffee customers in Los Angeles, it's all about Nicely, it's all about Jamie, and it's all about everyone else who shows up in the morning and makes them coffee with love. And if coffee here in Los Angeles is going to get better at a retail level, and if the professionalism of the barista is going to grow here in Los Angeles, it's going to be because of them. Thank you, guys.